everyone, Michelle here from the Creative Cove. Thanks for joining me today. I thought we would have some fun in our, my watercolor journal that I made a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, and I have a video on that, and I'll try and remember to link it. So this is all just scraps of watercolor paper that I bound with a just a hardcover. I can't even remember what the hardcover was made out of, an old book perhaps. And some watercoloring in here. Did some doodles in here, and I can't lay it. Can I lay it flat? I've changed my work surface, and I think I've made it far too small. And with this new tripod setup I have, the legs are right here, so it drives me nuts. They're right in the way. Anyways, I've got some pages to use up. So I think I did a video on the trees and a video on these guys here. I've been playing since, and I think what we'll do is create a little work of art in here. So let's get started. Okay, so our paper is now dry, and it's still pretty flexible, so that's nice. I thought we would do a bird. I've been loving doing birds lately. Oh, I need a pencil with a lead in it. That would help. No lead in the pencil. It's a bit of a challenge to draw with. There we go. I've just got a 2B here. I think I'll do a robin. I feel like just having fun with a cute little bird. So I'm going to sketch him out. That part's still a bit wet. It's a bit soft, but that's okay. I'm going to actually change his beak going this way. And I'm just going to have fun sketching here. I'm pretty loose. I don't even know if you guys can actually see what I'm sketching. But whatever you want to sketch, whatever bird or animal you want, sketch it in. Nice and loose, not too many details, just to kind of give you an idea of where everything's gonna sit on the page. Might even make him a little bigger. I feel like if I have a branch here, I've got a lot of negative space up here, so I am going to make him bigger. I'm not overly worried about the background or screwing anything up right now, because this is a mixed media piece, and it is all about really having fun with just a loose approach. And if it works, great, and if it doesn't, we just keep playing until we're happy with it. Very loose sketch. So now I'm going to get my paints, and I'm going to pull out this really messy, it's just a piece of foam board from the dollar store, and I just use it over and over again. So I've got some cadmium yellow, already has some raw sienna out. I'm going to need a little bit of blue, some phthalo blue. And these are all golden. Some black. I don't have any good quality black paint, so unfortunately I have to use this dollar store stuff. If you're looking to do a nice painting with some, quality paints and get those quality colors, I would recommend a golden. They're a great brand. That's titanium white. What else am I gonna need? I'm gonna need some red. Do I have some red on my desk? Payne's Gray. Let's pull some Payne's Gray out. Love Payne's Gray. It's gray. And yes, I do have some red. Bear with me. I've got a lot of stuff on my desk. I have been in a creative mojo for the last couple of days. And that feeling of just that creative feel going through your body and just having fun with it, and I didn't want to stop. So I've got some really crappy dollar store brushes because that's what I like to use. And now I'm just going to have some fun creating my little birdie. So let me make a little bit of space here. I'm just gonna, okay. Put some stuff in my drawer. Okay, let me just build up the bird. So I'm going to use a little Payne's Gray from my palette in there. It'd be nice if I could without putting my sleeve in it. I'm just going to feel out the shape of my bird. And like I said, it is a rough brush. I am not going to get some nice marks, like nice clean marks, but I am going to get some fun random marks off this brush, which is what it's all about. So I want to make sure that I get the right beak shape for my bird. That's important. Different birds, different beaks, different sizes, different lengths, different purposes. So you do want to make sure that you are getting the right type of beak for your bird. And I like to paint with very little paint. So you can hear that kind of dry, scratchy sound. That's kind of how I roll. I like to build up my layers of paints, especially on this kind of surface where I want some of the background to pop through. I'm going to create a little orange here. So I'm going to put my darker orange on. So a little bit of Payne's gray, yellow, and red mixed in there. And that was cadmium red, I believe. Yes, cadmium red that I used. I don't know if I told you that or not. So quite red for a robin. But we're just building him up right now. Let's just feel him out. So this is more of a European robin than American robin. He's got the chest, at the top of the chest, a little bit of the face is orange, and then the belly is white. So here in Ontario anyways, I'm not a bird expert by any means, but here in Ontario, our robins are all orange and they're much bigger. So something to bear in mind when you're picking your bird. Is it something native to where you live? Or is it something far away? And this one is overseas for me. All right, so I'm just gonna build up. Mostly I wanna make sure I'm getting the shape right. And it's a bit hard because the camera is in my way. I wanna make sure I'm getting a robin shape head. So I feel like I need to build his crown up a little bit. And then what tells me if I'm getting it right or not is as soon as I put a placement for the eye, that's my indicator whether or not I'm achieving the right shape. Again, a little bit of paint, just scrubbing it in, using a very beaten up brush. Don't use your good brushes for this. And he's got that round, nice fat belly. And he's got some legs. So we got down here and maybe right here. And then he's sitting on something. We don't know what yet. Okay, so I feel like his beak isn't right. What's fun with this technique is you can go back and forth, build up layers, change the colors. I'm just going to change the shape of his beak right now till I get what I am looking for. And I'm just going to use white. That background color will most likely change as I develop my painting. But right now I'm feeling out the shape of my bird. And I will worry about the negative space next. Let's give him a little bit more of a crown. He's got that real big round forehead. A little bit down here, gray. Okay, now I think I've achieved the shape. So now I'm going to play with some colors. So I'm going to lighten up the orange. So I'm going to use more yellow, a little less red, and no black this time. And I'm going to start putting in some feathers. And I'm just going around the eye, again, being very loose, not covering up all that dark red. Remembering he's got a shoulder here, folded wing, and then some yellow chest here, orangey chest. And this goes across into his beak. Oops. I'm just going to slowly build that up. Okay, we'll maybe lighten up some of the gray area. Payne's gray here. I don't want to put all the detail in for my bird, but I would like to start building up his form a little bit. So again, very rough brush, so very little control when it comes to the brush stroke right now, because I'm not putting in tons of detail. Right now I'm just kind of building up the form of the bird. So I want to pop his shoulder, his wing, have those colors mix, have some fun, see what colors I get. I want to warm him up a little bit. Oh, that's the dog. Sorry. Hopefully she's not too annoying in the video. She always seems to want to start barking when I'm trying to film. Put a little warm in his gray feathers. I think I'm going to pop his belly a little bit more forward here. And then really work on the detail of his beak. Let's make sure I've got what I want. It's a bit wet. Let's do it with pencil. Just to remind me that I still need to play with his beak a smidge. They've got that kind of hook to the front, but very tiny. Okay, so I'm going to leave that for a bit before I put too much detail in. And I want to go to the background. I want to have some fun with my background. So let's see, I've got that blue. Blue would be a nice color. You can leave it neutral, of course. You do whatever you want. But I'm going to throw some color in. I'm just going to have some fun with color. Dilute it a little bit. I don't know where this is going to take me. I'm not working off a reference photo here. I haven't thought about what it is I want to do in the background just yet. I know that I want to use my stamps. I want to use some bubble wrap for some, I don't have any, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Stencils. I'd like to start collecting some, but I don't have any just yet. So I think I will use some bubble wrap, because bubble wrap always creates some really fun texture. And we'll give it a go, give it a play. So I'm just taking random colors off my palette at this point. And I'm working the background. I really like that blue. Again, just that scrub, and you can see how even just already how that texture from that tissue paper is really coming through and creating some really fun textures and interest to the background. I like this light turquoisey color. I think it's got a smidge of yellow in it. Let's put some more of that in. It's quite pretty. Even if I paint over his feet, it's okay. Maybe add a little bit of this cool minty color into the bird while I have it. I quite like that color a lot, so I'm going to make a little bit more. I like the coolness of it against the warm colors. So just playing. I've been having fun creating these backgrounds the last couple of days. I've posted a few images on my Instagram, which I will link below in the description box. All right, so maybe I want some sort of focal point behind him. Let's see, what have I got on my desk? I've got a small circle, but I want something a little bigger. What have I got? I've got this. It could work. It's full of markers. No, it's not big enough. So let's just do it by eye. Normally I would trace the circle. It's just a lot easier. But let's maybe put some visual interest behind him. Whether it's like a moon or a sun or whatever we want it to be. circle in this case. Just use the edge of our brush here. This again is just a cheapy dollar store brush. Okay, so that's just going to keep mixing because the color underneath is wet. So we're going to leave that for a minute. I just want to make sure I've got a half decent circle. Go over his leg. I think so. Okay, and then we will maybe use some Payne's Gray here and add some sort of lines where not sure what's going on, but they're in there for some fun. So once I build these up, and again, nothing is permanent in this, so it can be a little bit intimidating putting these bold black lines in there, but that's the beauty of acrylic. You don't have to worry about it, because if you don't like it, you just go right over top and Bob's your uncle. You got a whole new look. So let's do some blue here, and again, I'm just pulling out some fun color. How thick you go in the paint determines how much you cover the background noise, right? So if you really like that texture of the print, the font from those books coming through, then by all means go lighter on the paint. So I like it in parts. So I like it in, I think I want this guy more yellow. I'll like it in spurts. I don't want the whole background to show, but little bits and pieces of that paper popping through makes me happy. So I'll do that. I want a little bit more yellowy brown back here. And this is real time. I'm not gonna fast forward this. You might hear some video game behind me. My husband and the kids are downstairs playing video games, which is great. So I'm just gonna go over some color again and introduce this new color that I quite like. Okay, so now I'll go back to the bird. Got some interest going in the background. Let's pop some details in this bird. So what I'm gonna do is I need to rotate this. Oh, this desk is so small, so frustrating. I'm gonna have to rethink this. I'm gonna have to move this. Sorry about that. I'm gonna slide off the desk. Okay, let's see if I can get this to work. Hopefully you can see that without putting my sleeve in my paint. Let's find a smaller brush too. Let's find a little detailing brush. Let's see what I got here. Got this guy. This one, I don't even know what this is. Artist Loft. So just a Michael's paintbrush by the sounds of it. Okay, let's start putting some interest here in the bird. Start building up a little realism. Add a little white to that. It's hard to see what's going on because I feel like the camera is right at my head, so I can't get any closer to see this bird. Normally I would visually be much closer to it while painting. Okay, a little Payne's Gray. Let's do this beak. Again, if you screw it up, don't worry about it. Just repaint it. Okay, so I'm gonna probably soften that off with a little gray after. I think his eye is a little bit too close, so I'm gonna move it back here. do I have a robin beak going on? It's a little bit, oops. It's a little bit kingfishy looking. So let's clean it up a little. Okay. Whoops. Move this eye here. So move this eye. Let's redefine the eye a little. Put it where we want it. So I want it back here. I'm just going to dab some feathers around it. And then I'll go into my orange. Create a little orange here. And a little orange in here. And I want to create a little bit more of a forehead for him. And I'm just bouncing this color. I'm trying to create that feathery vibe. Go into some Payne's Gray here. And I'm going to work up the values from dark to light while trying to achieve that form we're after. It's got a little bit of an eyebrow here. Oh, a video game. Sorry, I hope it's not too distracting. In the background, a little bit of a shadow around his eye. And then we'll go into some lighter color. Soften out those brush strokes. I like to do it while it's a little wet. Let the paint blend. You'll see I'm not painting every single stroke. I don't want to get into that kind of detail. I'm just going to create a little bit of form here. Go a little bit lighter. And some highlights. It might be too high a contrast, so we'll tone that down a little. There we go. We'll highlight here. Maybe a couple around his eye in here. And just building up those feathers. So you always want to consider the shape that the bird, the form, sorry. So if you were to pat the bird on the head, which direction the feathers are going in, that's quite important. If you start painting them in the wrong direction, it's not going to feel quite as real. Let's put a little contrast where his head and neck join, and then into his body and his wings. Again, nice and loose, not super detail, but enough to imply his texture and his form. That's what we're after. Put a little bit of gray blue color in there. Kind of transition the wing. And even though he doesn't have this blue, I quite like it. So I might add a little bit of it just for some artistic, creative license here. It's your painting. You know, you could paint a robin purple if you wanted to. It's your painting. So I'm going to add a little bit of that fun blue in there. I do like it. So I'm going to pop a little, maybe a little around his eye. Something fun. Maybe we'll highlight the beak with this blue. A little bit there. And then a little bit where it comes into his face. Right here. A little highlight on the top. Okay, I'm liking that. Now I want to feather out his feathery edges. So I'll use a little more orange here. It's got a little pink because I had white in my brush. I rarely wash my brush, but that's just my choice. I'm just going to pull a little bit of that out. Same with the top. I want him feathery. Back to a little contrast at the top here. We don't want to do too much detail around the edge because we might be changing our background, but it's nice to put it in see what we think of our overall bird. Okay, now I'm gonna go one highlight more in the orange, yellow, just a smidge of highlight here and there. I like around his eye a little bit. And you can have a lot of fun just layering up all these fun colors. Okay, I'm gonna leave him. I'm gonna put a little dot in his eye, bring him to life. There he is. Smidge more of a highlight on his beak. And he has a dark nostril. I have these strong nostrils here. We'll put in. Okay, so let's go back to the background. Let me find my bubble wrap here in this disaster I call a desk. And I also want to find a sponge. I've got that. Where's the sponge? I want to show you this fun technique of using these two things. Okay, here's the sponge. Will be over here. Oh, got it. Okay, let's put some textures in. So I really like the orange. I'm gonna fill some orange on here. So I'm gonna create a little orange on my palette. Oh, I just contaminated it all. Let's start again. I got blue in my yellow. So if I add red, I'm gonna get brown, which we don't want. Just gonna rinse my brush. So you can see I've been using this bubble wrap quite a bit. I'm just putting red and yellow on my brush and then mixing that color here. And then I'm just gonna add it to different places. And I just think it's so much fun to add these textures. A little bit more paint. Go a little bit more yellow maybe. And that's all I do, just paint it on there. And remember, too much, don't worry about it. You just paint right over. Okay, so I got that. And then I wanted to do some splattering, and then we're gonna let it dry. So I think I'm gonna splatter some white. So I basically just load up some very liquidy white. And that's too liquidy. And just whack it on there. And even if I get these funky clumps, if I don't like them, I'll just wipe them off, rub them in. Do whatever I want till I get the desired effect. So the splattering is always fun. Everybody likes to splatter. You never get too old to splatter, you know? And you can have so much fun in an art journal. I think I'm gonna do a little contrast with some dark blue splatter. Much bolder, but so what? You can also wipe it off, but I'm gonna let it dry because anything I want to subdue, I can layer on. I might remove some of the blue. I find it maybe just a little too heavy. And then I'm gonna show you this sponge technique in a second. So let's just remove right here. Maybe dab it. Let's do a dabbing technique. Just subdue those, just a little bit of those dots, or a little bit too much. Okay, so it's gotten a little messy up here, but that's okay. That's part of the fun. So what I find too is you'll go through stages where it gets really dark and then you want to pop the light up. And you're going to go through ugly phases through your painting, and that's totally normal, especially with acrylics. You're going to get to a point where you're like, ooh, not sure about this, but trust the process. Give yourself a chance, move through it, work through the parts that you don't like, give them, walk away, have a time to dry, come back to it, which we're gonna do. Okay, so it's not 100% dry, but it's dry enough where I feel like we can proceed. I am gonna roll my sleeves up because I know for sure I'm gonna dunk my sleeve in this palette. All right, so we want to look around and see what I like and what I don't like about it so far. So what I do like is the overall composition. What I don't like is that everything seems to be uniform. There's no contrast. I want some contrast. So in order to achieve contrast, we will play with that a little bit with some more paint. So I'm going to go into perhaps some Payne's Gray and some blue. And I'm going to go around the outside of my circle here and pull out some color. Again, very little. I use my fingers a lot when I paint too. This is just something I've always done. Always. I just love the feel of the paint. I like that I can control the paint a little bit with my finger. I'm just gonna break up a few spots where I'm gonna go around, and already it's pushed this forward. So what I could do is play with that a little more by lightening up some spots on here. And even though I'm kind of covering some of the work I just did, it's okay. You're gonna go back and forth from foreground to background quite a bit in this process. But I think that's kind of what makes it so much fun. Just really experimenting. I really like this line coming through here as well, but we can maybe have some fun with some contrast there. And I think we need to work on what he's perched on a little bit. So maybe kind of put some line through here, something a little bolder maybe. We don't have to tell the viewer what he's standing on. It could be up to the viewer to think, oh, it's a stick, it's a rock. We'll leave it up to their imagination. I'm gonna introduce some of this kind of funky green color back here. I hope it's not too dark for you to see what's going on with the bird. It's getting kind of dark out. I'm gonna pull a little contrast in here too. Just around the bird. Pop that belly forward a little bit. Let's not forget his little feet. Pull out the back of the bird a little more. Make him a little bolder. Darken his throat a little. I don't like that. So let's change that. And put these orange dots right back in again if I want to. You just have to be careful not to make things too muddy. Then you'll have to let it dry and to bring it back. And muddy happens quite easily, especially when you're using all these colors. If you're going to mix the primaries, you're going to get muddy colors. Sometimes you can achieve some really pretty mud colors, and other times it's maybe just a little too muddy. So we've got some nice contrast coming back. We've got some darker colors here, some bright spots here. Pull some brighter spot here. Now let's have fun with some textures again. Maybe the line. Okay, so I want to put, maybe I'll put what he's perching on here instead. And I look at the overall kind of composition of the painting, and I want to make sure I've got balance. I want balance in color. I want balance in subject matter. I want balance in texture. I want all of it. I want it all. And sometimes you'll have to play quite a bit in order to achieve that. The important thing is try not to overthink it. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle. Things get overthought just a little too much. Okay, let's have some more fun with bubble wrap. Where'd it go? Here it is. Okay, so I want to put some more of that orange back in. So yellow and some red. Okay, I want to put some here, maybe right down to the corner. And then I think I'd like to put something bright up here. Now, if you had more stencils, like if you had some stencil options of more textures, go for it. I wish I did, but I don't. So I'm just using what I have available to me. Okay. All right, and then I'm just going to maybe take my big brush that dried off, and I'm just going to have a look around and see if there's anything I want to soften. Oh, I want to show you, that's what I want to show you. The sponge. Let's not forget the sponge. The sponge is so fun. So it's just an old makeup sponge. I wet it, squeeze it. Mine's pretty dirty. I've been using it quite a bit. You can use marker and pen and just about anything in here. Out of yellow, so let me put a little bit more yellow in here. I don't need lots, but a little something. I got it all over my hand. And I'm gonna just load up like a makeup sponge, and I'm gonna put some on and put it in different places. I can dab it, but what I love to do is then take it off and smear it. And what that does is gonna pick up on some of those really fun textures that we had played with earlier. So I'm gonna wipe some of this off, and it's leaving these edges. So you're gonna let that dry, and then you can go over with a contrast color. And it's just so much fun. I love it. And then just go back and forth till I get my desired effect. Go back to splattering and just keep playing. So I think I'll maybe put a little bit more detail back in my bird now. Maybe a little bit more interest in the feathers. I've got that nice bubble wrap under there. Really loving this area here. I think it creates some real nice interest. Really pop some dark. Could do black bubbles. That would be fun. Let's try it. Let's see if we like it. If we don't like it, we just go over it after. I'm gonna go Payne's Gray, not black. So fun. Okay. So this area to me needs work. This area needs a little softening. I really like the area with the bird. I think I'm going to clean my brush and create some bright green. So I'm digging the bright green, some lime green here, and pop it under here. It's getting a little muddy, so I might have to let things dry. So that Payne's Gray is wet, so it's creating some mud color. Yeah, so I'm gonna let that dry again, which is probably the biggest challenge. So before I leave it to dry, I want to, I really like these white splatters on the bird. So I'm going to add some more splatters. Really add a lot down here. Wherever I want some interest. Okay, we're gonna let that dry. Turn the light ring on because it's getting dark, and I want to finish this. Some of it's still wet. The splattering's still wet, but I thought I'll play with this while we are waiting for it to dry in some areas. I just want to bring back some other color in here. Don't know why I keep getting contaminated. All the colors underneath are still wet. This palette has been used quite a bit in this last little while. And like I said, my biggest challenge is letting things dry. I really struggle with that. I just get so excited to want to get my hands dirty that I create more work for myself. Okay, so I know that I eliminated a lot of the dots there, but I want to, oops, I feel like it was getting a little bit too busy. I'll bring some of them back. So sometimes you just want to give sections where your eye can kind of rest, where maybe the painting gets very, very busy and you need to kind of subdue some of the texture, some of the busyness, just a smidge. So creating these little flat areas of rest really helps balance the painting. And you might find that you cover something you really like, and that's probably the hardest thing to move past, is covering something you really like. You're like, oh, I really like that mark. But it's all part of the process. And that's the only way you're going to achieve these really fun layers of interest, is to be bold and courageous and just cover up and move over to the kind of next part of the image. I'm going to put some of this blue in the bird. I really like it. I know a robin isn't blue, but it's fun. Okay, I like that. So what I'm going to do now is really dry my brush. I really want it to dry so I can do this technique. I might have to do it at the very end with the sponge that I want to show you, because it's just so cool. I think I want to add some orange over here. So let's try it. See if we like it. And again, we don't like it, we change it. So be careful when you add orange and blues together, because they're going to make a brown, because you're going to mix all three primary colors. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to wait for this to dry, and I'm going to use the orange over that blue technique without turning it too brown. Okay. Dry, dry. Let's try, do I want more splatter? I want some black splatter, or Payne's gray, I should say. Maybe a little black. Ooh, that's fun. It's giving me kind of wiry ones. So it's not quite thin enough. Those will take quite a while to dry, which we don't want. Okay, if you don't like something, just wipe it off. I'm going to soften these though, because that is going to take too long to dry. Put some smaller ones back in. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to be brave here and use my stamps while that's wet, which I probably shouldn't be doing. But I'm going to do it anyways. So I got my Stays On ink, and I have a random selection of stamps. So this one is from, oh, sorry, my sleeve, from Amazon. I use this in almost all my videos, and it's just an illegible writing. It came on a wood board, but I take that off because I don't like using the wood, because I don't want to use the whole stamp. I want to use parts of the stamp. And I'm going to start putting it down wherever I want some visual interest in my image. Right across the bird, for example, right across here. So you would wait until things are dry, but you guys know me. I have no patience. I think I will do a little bit up here. Okay, I'll leave that one for now. And then I have some numbered stamps, and these are all Tim Holtz collection, field notes, and a mail one. I can't remember what it's called, and I didn't keep the piece. I just put them in a bucket. But they're a Tim Holtz, and if you're familiar with his products, the stamps are so much fun. I use them quite a lot. So I want something bold. And again, it's only going to be so bold while the paint is wet. But you can see, it just creates so much fun on a mixed media piece. Okay, and maybe I'll put one going a different direction. Because the idea is not to really see the number so much as see the texture. What else have I got in here? What's this one say? Postal telegraph. Okay. Doesn't really apply to birds, but it doesn't matter because it's texture. So what's this one say? Orders attended to day or night. Interesting. Let's do it. I like the length of this. I like the font. I'm going to put it on an angle here going down the branch. You could even create the branch with the stamp. How fun would that be? Let's try it. So we're implying that the bird is sitting on a branch, and we're doing it with a stamp. My stamp got wonky. Let's straighten that out a smidge, and let's put it up here. So remember, trying to achieve balance. Repeat those textures throughout. Oops, sorry. That tripod again. Repeat those textures throughout your painting. You know, your splatters, your brush marks, your stamps, all that jazz. Anything you've decided to use, your bubble wrap. This is the stamp I carved. Did a video on this. I'll try and remember to link it. I think this could be some fun technique. Now, I don't necessarily want the whole stamp stamped. Maybe just bits of it. Just for some added interest. Now, if I had white ink, ooh, that'd be fun. Stamp some white in here. I don't want to get too busy. Just want to add a little something. Okay, I'm really happy with that. Really liking the overall. I like this white and I like this white. I feel I need to add more white. So I'm just going to do one more splatter of white, or if this is dry enough, what we could try and do is finally use this sponge. So I load up and I'm just going to drag it. And what I want to do, just pick up on those creases of paper that we spent that time putting in. Just for interest. So I got some down here, a little bit up there. I still want some splatter. I can't get enough of the splatter. I think I've got paint on the sweater. But this is I call this my old man cardigan. It's just an old acrylic sweater. Oh yeah, liking that. So busy, but some really fun focal points. You know, we didn't put all the detail in the bird. We focused on his face and we gave him an interesting background to bring the face forward, and then built contrast between these, introduced colors elsewhere, And I think it's created a really interesting page. At least I hope you think so. Let me bring it closer and see if you can see the textures and all the details and how much fun that is. So there's very little paper showing through. I did go thicker on the, is that showing? A little thicker on the paint than intended, but it's still okay. It's still okay to go that way. If you wanted the paper back, glue more paper down in areas and bring it back. Totally up to you. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it gave you some fun ideas to play in your creative little books that you might build or on scrap papers, and have fun creating some art using the materials you have. All right, guys, hope that wasn't too long. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.